In the name of the infinite, the beginning before all beginnings and the ending after all ends, the source of beauty, love, and mercy. I will argue tonight that a theology of liberation requires a pedagogy of critique. That is, a theology of liberation. If Islam is here to liberate people, if Islam is going to be relevant to the dignity of human beings on this earth as we live, then a theology of liberation, well, it requires a pedagogy of critique. Pedagogy, or French pédagogie, takes many meanings. One of them is the art of teaching, the profession of teaching, the preparatory training of a teacher. It comes from the Greek root word pedagaioia. That root word is related to the root word pedagaiogos, who is a slave in ancient Athens, who takes the children of the wealthy, of the citizens, of the enfranchised, to and from school on a daily basis. And here I would like to reference Hermann Hesse's book, A Journey to the East, although I know that unfortunately we as Muslims, myself included, don't read enough fiction. In the story, A Journey to the East, there is a Sherpa, a servant, his name is Leo. And a group of people come together to embark upon an expedition that has metaphysical meaning to them. And on this expedition, this servant Leo, he serves these people. He cooks their food. He organizes their campground. He helps them determine where they will walk for the rest of the day. One morning, the campers wake up and Leo is no longer there. And immediately disarray and chaos ensue. They are unable to determine how to start the day. They are unable to determine the direction that they want to take. And so the expedition comes to an end. One of the members of such expedition continues on his own and walks and walks and walks. He stumbles upon a community that resembles the creation of a village. This community invites this man for food, for drink, for rest. And a member of the community tells this man, "You're going to be really lucky. Today is a beautiful day. Today is the day that our great leader comes to recognize our people and to lead us in prayer to the Almighty." And so the camper waits and waits and waits. And to his surprise, Leo emerges as the leader of a great people. If you read the great essay by Dr. Robert Greenleaf, The Servant as Leader, or Servant Leadership, its conception is sourced in this story, that a servant can lead a people with humility, with integrity, by abdicating an egotistic approach to the development of self and identity, and giving from the soul to the advancement and development of a people that this leader might not even be commissioned with leading. And thus we begin the conversation of leading from within. Well, if pedagogy is how we teach teachers and how they teach, in this case Islam, then practice is reflection and action upon the world within which we live in order that we can transform it. Practice over time is what we call urf. Praxis over time is what we call urf. Article 36 of the International Court of Justice statute that brings a clear definition to what international law is. Number one, international law is customary law. Customary law is that law which comes from the action of individuals and the lack of objection of others. And therefore it becomes a part of the custom. It becomes a part of the culture of the people. So pursuant to this radical argument that a theology of liberation requires a pedagogy of critique, I would like to offer three ideas that come from the work of Paulo Freire from Sao Paulo, Brazil, who worked in the field of revolutionary education. Three quick ideas. Idea number one. An act is only oppressive when it prevents people from being more fully human. The conviction of the oppressed that they must fight for their liberation is not a gift bestowed by the revolutionary leadership, by the shuyukh, by the ulama, but it is the result of concept number one, conscientization. In Portuguese, conscientização. Conscientization is the idea that your consciousness is insufficient. Your awareness of the oppression that exists in your society is insufficient. Rather, you must be aware of your role in reinforcing the oppression that exists within your domain. And there must be a necessary corollary action that is focused on alleviating this oppression that exists. And so awareness, consciousness is insufficient. Conscientization is what is required in order for a people to be able to achieve liberation. How does conscientization come about? It comes about through dialogical action. Through dialogical action. Idea number two, banking theories of education. They serve as the paradigmatic orientation of oppression and cause a sadist from sadomasochism, a sadist domestication that renders students impotent and incompetent. And it is a reality in which the student is seen as a vessel and we are simply depositing our information inside of the vessel that exists, which is the student. Opposing the banking theory of education is the problem-posing approach to education, where people develop their power to perceive critically the way they exist in this world, not as a static reality. They are not static in reality, and life is not a static reality, but as a reality in process, in progress, in transformation. So the banking theory to education, which exists in most Muslim educational experiences, it mythicizes reality to erect truth that reinforce the power of the oppressing class, among whom are the shuyukh and the ulama and the imams. Not because they steal, but because they have been taught a banking and domesticating approach to how we teach. Problem-posing education sets for itself the task of demythologizing, of deconstructing what has been socially constructed around us without our participation, because of a lack of recognition of our dignity as human beings to co-create the reality within which we live together. And so I end with a quotation from Freire himself. And the third concept, revolutionary praxis. Revolutionary praxis must stand opposed to the praxis of the dominant elites, for they are by nature antithetical. Revolutionary praxis cannot tolerate an absurd dichotomy in which the praxis of the people is merely the following of the leader's decisions and intellection. A dichotomy reflecting the prescriptive methods of the dominant elites. Revolutionary practice is a unity, and the leaders cannot treat the oppressed as their possession. Tell me if this sounds familiar. Manipulation, sloganizing, depositing, regimentation, and prescription cannot be components of revolutionary praxis precisely because they are components of the praxis of domination. In order to dominate, the dominator has no choice but to deny true praxis to the people, deny them the right to say their own word and think their own thoughts. When we built this nation, there were a series of articles written in New York newspapers. Those articles later came to be called the Federalist Papers. In the first paragraph of the first Federalist, Alexander Hamilton writes, "It seems to have been left to the people of this nation, by their conduct and example, to determine the question whether man will forever be destined to be ruled by fear and force, or whether we can build a constitution and a way of life that is sourced in reflection and choice. So I implore you, if you believe that Islam is here to liberate people, you must remember that a theology of liberation it requires a pedagogy of critique. Salaam alaikum.